Welcome back to What Would You Ask podcast. My next guest hung around in that tank, that dangerous shark tank. And she is the founder, creator, inventor, inspiration behind Surprise Ride. You guys remember that, right? It's that monthly subscription kind of kid gift service, right? At the beginning of each month, they'll send you a kit. I went on the website, and I got to tell you, I mean, my kids are all older now. 18, let me get this right. My wife will kill me. 18, 16, 13, and 10. And 2 boys, 2 girls. And they would love this. And she would love it because sticking their head, and they all have, even the 10-year-old has a phone. I'm kind of embarrassed to say that. All my other kids didn't get them until they're 12. He's got one at 10. He's also the smartest. But anyway, they are just, it's like constantly, we have to put them away for dinner when we're, because it's always, hold on, I got one more thing. I got 3 minutes left in this video. It's just unbelievable. And this has got, what did I see on there, bro? You were looking at it with me. Volcano creation kit. It's got a beeswax kit. It's got, what was the other one that I liked? The other kit that was on the, big help. Treasure chest. There was a treasure chest. I love pirates and all that stuff. I mean, maybe not today, but I'll probably buy one. A lot of different, it goes a ton of different ways. And there's other very creative. It makes you just use whatever part of the brain that these kids are not using, right? Watching TV and their things. So I'm really excited to talk to Rosy about the creation of this and their journey through the Shark Tank. She was part of the ABC hit show Shark Tank. She was season 5, episode 9. Thank you, Brody, for being exactly knowing that episode. Go right there. Rosy, Khalife, welcome to What Would You Ask podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Nick.
I'm glad you're here. So let's start right there. Tell us about how you guys, and your sister was involved in this as well. Tell us about how you guys came to, develop this.
So we actually grew up with a dad who was an artist. So we grew up in a very creative home. We used to always do projects with him, and we didn't grow up with much. So we really looked to him to kind of guide us. We didn't have, PlayStations or fancy technology to occupy us. And so it was really up to him to sort of fill up our time. And so he would always give us something new to do, experiments, art projects, different things. And we looked at how kids are growing up today and realized that they are not growing up anyway compared to how we grew up. They are literally glued to the screens, which of course technology has so much benefit. Look at what we're doing today, which is fabulous. But also, you want kids to grow up in a wholesome way and have hands-on experiences. So we created our first product and we thought, hey, let's just throw something together and see if people will actually want this. And we created the birds kit. So it was all about birds, how they fly, what do they eat, where do they live, and learning all about them. And people loved it. And we were very surprised. And so that kind of started our journey into Surprise Ride.
How long was it from the creation of the product you guys weren't deep into the business when you got to Shark Tank, but tell us where you were as you entered into the tank for the business.
So we were in our infancy. So we were just a few months old when we went into the tank. We had 18,000 in sales, a couple hundred customers, barely, just, mostly friends and family and then their friends. So we had no employees. It was literally just me and Donna, my sister. So it was very, very early on, which I think we are so lucky that happened that way, actually.
So take us through a little bit of the audition process. Everybody, the viewers and listeners love to hear how you connected with the tank. And then we've heard a lot of varying stories, people spending 6 months through the journey, 9 months through the journey. A couple of people actually went a year before they even got to LA and to the studio. Tell us what your journey was like to get on the tank.
Absolutely. So many people have a different way of getting on the show. Our way was quite unconventional. We had someone forwarded us an email chain, literally, that had the senior producer's email all the way in the bottom of the chain. And me and Donna were part of an accelerator program that taught us every day you have to try something new to gain new customers. So you throw a new dart at the board. So we had this huge whiteboard of all these random ideas. I mean, like go stand on the street, like the craziest things that you could think of. And one of them was go on Shark Tank. Someone had told us you should go on Shark Tank. So we found this email and we literally cold emailed the producer. We told him, hey, here's our story. This is why we watch the show. This is why we love the show. And we want to just tell you who we are and how we got to this point. And he wrote us back within minutes, literally within minutes.
Wow.
And we were so scared. We had prepped for this email. It took us, hours to write the email. We were not ready for him to reply. And he replies and he says, I'd love to jump on a call with you. So we're even more nervous because we definitely didn't prep for a call. We get on the phone with him. He wants to see our product. We overnight FedEx him our product. And then the process starts. But it definitely, from that point, it does take months until you actually go on. There's, interviews with the production team. You work with a producer. There's about a wad of paper that is as big as your head, literally, that you have to fill out. And I mean, it's a very involved process, as you can imagine. And then you'll finally go to LA. And then film. And what's really interesting, Nick, and I know you touched on this with some other guests, is that when you go to LA, that doesn't mean you air, right?
Yeah.
You can go to LA and film, and even then you may not air. So it's such an interesting test of you just being present and not being attached to the outcome, because you have no clue what will happen no matter what throughout the entire process.
It's interesting you say that, because we've interviewed now, we're knocking on 100, I believe. We have over 100 scheduled. What number is Rosy? 86. So we've talked to 86 entrepreneurs to this point, and that theme of the producers consistently telling you at the end of calls, at the end of the rehearsal videos, even at the end of walking off that through Shark Tank Alley, I call, they say, oh my God, you did a great job. Now, it's not guaranteed it's going to be on the air. That's like they have to end every call saying that. But you're right. It's like, it keeps those persistent. We've had some people say, listen, I didn't know if I wanted to do this. I mean, even through the process, it just got to a point where I'm running a business. I don't have time to invest in all this. And there was really discussions with some of these entrepreneurs that I don't know if this is going to be worth it. It's so much time invested into it, but most of them, obviously, all the ones we've talked to went through. So let's talk a little bit about just before getting on the tank. We love walking down that thing. I mean, this is an iconic show. People are just, I was a big fan of Big Break. I said of Shark Tank. I was a fan of Big Break too. But when you're standing in front of the first set of doors, not the ones that open just before you hit your nose on the door, the ones you're standing in front of it, you and your sister, are you pumped up and confident because you know your pitch, that first 90 seconds or whatever it is? Or do you have some butterflies, or is there a last second thing? Tell us a little bit about that.
So it's actually a funny story. So you're right. There are two set of doors, the first ones and then the second ones at the end of the hallway. And when we were at this first set of doors, me and Donna were, we were standing there really excited. We held each other's hands and said a quick prayer and couldn't believe that we were here in this moment in time. And as soon as we finished saying our little words to each other, a man comes up, a PA, and he puts, right in our faces, he does the countdown, 5, 4, and, he's mouthing it and he's excited. And we just look at each other like, this is it. It's happening right now. And as soon as his fingers go down, all of them, we're going in and it's happening. And as soon as the doors swing open, you're going to think I'm hilarious, but you would expect music to come on. There's no music. Obviously, it's real. So it's happening. So there isn't that shark music that comes on when you're watching it from home. So that was a surprise a little bit. And as you're walking down, you almost forget how to walk. It's actually a long hallway, pretty long, longer than whatever you think it is, it's double that. Yeah. So you walk down and you're kind of like, when is this going to end? When am I going to get to the next set of doors? So absolutely so many butterflies. At that point, you just have to surrender a little bit. Like whatever happens, it's all good. At this point, there's nothing else I can do.
We've heard so many stories about what I call Shark Tank Alley. You're just walking down that hallway. The one that people have said, more than one person has said, is they tell you keep walking, the doors will open. And literally, some people have said, I almost hit it. I feel like my face was going to run into the door on the second set. The other thing that's pretty consistent is what you said about the music, and then the cameraman that's running, walking backwards and all around you, filming you. One of the guys, really nice gentleman. I won't say who it was, but and I won't even say the season because he's such a nice guy. You would know who it is. He got in trouble because he walked through the first set of doors. He said he got about 10 feet and he stopped and he turned around and he said, there's no music. And they were like, and he thought they would just go quickly, bring him back and do it again. But it's a whole setup. And they got really mad at him. Like, no one told you there's no music. And he was like, no, he's like, no, we add that later. And it was just, but he's like, but you have the sharks on the side. And it was just really, it was,
I probably know who it is.
Yeah, you probably do.
Nice guy, master.
Yeah. So, and I love all that. And then you get to that spot, you have to stand awkwardly in front of they have all these things. And I know early on they used to come in through doors that look like an elevator and all that. But they are really setting the lighting and adjusting the cameras and getting that overhead shot of you guys. But it is an awkward thing, isn't it? When you stand there for a while, just stare straight ahead.
So awkward. So then once you get through the second set of doors, there's 2 X's, or one if you're one entrepreneur, and they tell you absolutely do not talk, do not do anything, just stand there because we have to figure out everything. There's going to be a camera that's going to go in front of your face. If you look at that camera, you will be cut.
Wow.
So can you imagine someone telling you that they're going to put something in your face and you cannot for the life of you look at it? So of course we didn't look at it, but it's so tempting to just want to look up a little bit and see what it is. It's one of those massive, cameras.
So you're in the tank, you walk in, you do your pitch, you're looking for 110 for 10%.
Right.
Let's go to some of the questions from our viewers and listeners. Monica from Huntington Beach, California. Monica, you got it really tough there. She wanted to know, were there any weaknesses in your business that you thought may be concerning during the Q&A with the Sharks?
One of the biggest things for us was that we weren't around for long. So we had some sales, but we didn't have the sales that the Sharks were really used to seeing. At that point, people were going into the tank with hundreds of thousands of dollars, in sales, and we had only 18,000. So that was the biggest thing for us, that and our valuation. They wanted us, they thought it was crazy that we thought we were worth whatever we thought. But, we knew that there was so much more here than what we were just showing them and what we had done so far.
Right. Mark from Madison, Wisconsin wants to know, did you have a specific shark in mind to sew up a deal with?
Yeah, great question. We wanted to really work with Lori because she has done a lot in, the consumer space. She's also a woman entrepreneur. So we thought we would get along with her. Or Kevin, who obviously sold his first company to Mattel and is very familiar in the kids space. So those were our top 2 picks.
Mike from Jupiter, Florida was congratulating you on knowing your numbers. He said, Rosy, cost of acquisition and lifetime value are critical business matrix. Did you have to study up on that, or did you know your numbers going in?
Honestly, we studied so much, hours and hours on end. The way we really prepped for the show, and I think this is important advice for any entrepreneur who wants to go on, is we watched religiously every single Shark Tank episode that has existed ever. And we wrote down all the questions that they asked, any question. And we made sure that we had a response for it. We had, at the end of it, about 15 typed up word pages of questions and our answer. And we memorized them for weeks.
It's so funny when you mention that, because everybody has their own, thing. We had, I had on the women from Gover, from the wine holders. Mm-hmm. And they said they used cue cards. They did it 6 months before they got on the air or got to LA to shoot. And they were doing it the night before in the hotel with the same cue cards. And they said they're worn and they're bent and stuff. And they were it was pretty neat. It was a cool story because they're using the same, and similar to you, they watched every episode. They wrote down all the questions that they heard, specifically the ones that were challenging, right? The ones they could knock out of the park. No reason to get involved there. Tell me about your comfort level. You went and knocked out was the comfort post 90 seconds presentation and the Q&A. Now I'm comfortable. I know my business. Fire away. I know it's going to be rapid fire, more than we see on TV. Boy, I've heard that too, by the way. The crosstalk, the questions going at you. And then we see this nice, oh, it's like Damon's turn to ask, and you two are standing there waiting patiently. That's not how it happens. We all know that.
Right.
But
For
where
sure.
did your comfort level come in? Was it the initial 90 seconds that was more challenging, or was it in the Q&A where?
I would say the 90 seconds was really challenging because we've heard of entrepreneurs messing up their 90 seconds. And then it's really a question if they're going to end up airing them or not. And I remember when an entrepreneur who had invented a product that gets attached to your tree. I don't know if you remember him, one man, he messed up his pitch, and they did air him, which was the first time they had ever done something like that. So I think the 90 seconds is definitely the trickiest. And then once you get in, once you get past that, we were in there for an hour and a half. So you can only imagine at that point, we're buddy. We're talking, we're just having conversations with these people who are, high power investors.
So you get to the point where, Kevin goes through the questions with you and about, that. And then you get down to Robert, Lori, and Mark are all in. And Robert says that, I didn't understand his thing about you're underestimating the hustle it takes to get. I was confused. I don't know where that came from, but okay. And then he says, basically moving this to a startup to a scalable business, and he offers you 110 for 25%. You are exploring all offers, which people do, and look to Lori and to Mark, and then Robert drops out. Tell us about the dynamic there. What happened? What happened behind the scenes? I'm sure it was a lot longer than we got to see. Tell us what happened in that moment.
It's truly a moment that shows how in business we all have our logic side and our emotional side, right? And so his logic side was him making us that offer. Great. And then our logic was, okay, we have these two other sharks who are also phenomenal. Let's see if they have an offer to give us, or if they want to add anything, or they want to join in on Robert's offer. So then his emotion got into it, where he felt like we weren't giving him enough attention, and we were giving Mark and Lori more attention. And he gets very, he gets a little bit jealous from Mark, as we've seen a number of times. And so that was really interesting to just sort of see that pan out. How no matter how much you think you have control over, your business and your logic and all that, your emotion can just get into it, and in a split second change everything that you're doing. Ultimately, we were so glad that Robert got a little bit annoyed that we weren't giving him enough attention, because it just showed the type of person he is. We've since met Robert a number of times, and we were on The View with him and Kevin and the whole team. And so we got to see him again. It was kind of funny and nice, and he's a great guy. But it was interesting in that moment how he let his kind of jealousy of Mark get in the way of a great business opportunity.
Before we get into post tank and what's going on with you today and with the product and all of that stuff, and by the way, even a deal. How about that? A little teaser for you guys out there. Anything inside the tank? Any memorable anecdotes or moments that you want to share that we didn't get to see?
Lori told us, and you may have seen part of this, but Lori told us that this was the best gift box she had ever seen.
She did.
And she then told us that she didn't want to invest because she wanted us to do it on our own, because we reminded her of herself, and she didn't want us to give away a big piece of our business and then not be able to grow it as well, et cetera, et cetera. So she wanted us to do it on our own. And it was just, we had a very special moment with her, very sincere moment, where she sort of took us down memory lane and took us through how we reminded her of herself. And that was really, really special. So that was beautiful.
We saw a little bit of that, no question about it. We didn't get all of it. She talked initially when you passed them out about how well constructed they were and the quality of them. And she did say that these are the best that she's ever seen. And it's so hard from a subscription, because you kind of just, it's here it is in front of me, and then there it goes. And now you get to, the perception is gone. You're lost control. There's no discussing it with the consumer once they receive it, right? So it's got to stand on its own. And she was really impressed. There's no question about that. So Mark, he says basically it's, I don't know if it was too early or theory to business. He used that kind of comment, and he goes out. Lori, just like you said, she said kind of, I don't think you need us right now, and that kind of thing. I think Mark was kind of like that too. No one disliked the product, which has got to be a plus for you guys, right? I mean,
So happy.
yeah, that's
So
really cool. So tell us what happened after the tank from a deal perspective.
So so Robert made us the offer. He ended up redacting it when we didn't give him enough attention. So we basically left the tank without a deal. And Donna and I were really nervous. We thought, we might not end up airing, because obviously not everyone who pitches in front of the Sharks airs. That's a really important point. They would be so biased, the Sharks, if every single person walked in there, was going to get 8 million plus views on their product. They were probably going to see some sort of a bump. So that would obviously make them want to invest more. So not everyone makes a deal. And more so, people who don't make a deal, even so, don't necessarily air. So we were just very nervous. And so we kind of felt like, okay, we need to just go back to the drawing board, go back to our office, and just do this on our own. So we went back to our office in Washington, D.C. We raised outside funding. We ended up raising over $5.5 million for the company. We grew our team. We created over 100 plus products and wrote over a dozen children's books that were included as part of our kits. We launched in retail. I mean, we did all this different stuff and we were ready to go. And then we basically get reached out to from the Shark Tank producers about a year later. And they tell us, everyone wants to know, what are the sisters doing? And are they still around? Is their business, is it thriving? What happened? And so they come and film us. So they come to our offices in Washington, D.C., and you can see that on Beyond the Tank. And, they're filming us for days on end, and they're getting basically an update. And then they tell us one of the days, they tell us, just work naturally, keep your phones on sound, just do your thing like you normally would. So me and Donna are trying to schedule a meeting in New York, and then her phone rings, and it's a 617 number. So she picks up thinking it's our brother who used to live in Boston. And she's in the other end is, "Hi, Donna, this is Kevin O'Leary. I'm in the neighborhood and I'd like to stop by." And I kid you not, everyone thinks we're such great actors. I promise you, Nick, we had no idea. We just thought this was a wholesome update on what we're up to, meeting our team, seeing our office, la, la, la. And then shortly after that day, Kevin comes by, and I'll never forget, what you see is what you get. So the knock on the door, we open the door, we give Kevin a hug. That's real. That was a one thing that happened one time. Everything that you see from that point forward was just one time. And we go into our conference room and we meet with him, and he basically makes us an offer. And it was a great offer for us. It was a small percentage for a small percentage for a little bit of capital, which is perfect. We didn't need a lot of capital, and we didn't want to give away a lot of our company at that point because we had done a ton more stuff. So it was just exactly what we wanted, and we took it, and we've never looked back. We love Kevin. I mean, I can say more about that later, but he is truly a phenomenal human that I have so much respect for.
And he's also, excuse me, a guy that's been in the space, right? He's been in learning and children's stuff and all that. And you would think that's a natural, he must have really loved to do with that. I mean, this is a guy that's, doesn't have any time in the day. None of those guys do, but for that to happen, that's a really cool thing. I mean, I don't think that's ever happened before at the time, did it?
No. The first time in the history of Shark Tank has that ever happened. Yeah.
That is really cool. So tell us briefly what happened in your Shark Tank effect. So you finally find out you're airing. They give you the date. Are you ready for it? And what happens when we're not talking about we are talking about a tangible product, but we're talking a little different in a service mentality. So go ahead, tell us how that affected you or how the business.
So we filmed earlier, a few months before it was going to actually air. So we aired in November, and that was pretty quick. So I believe we filmed in September. So we just had a few months between when we aired and when we filmed. When we filmed, when we aired. And so it was still me and Donna, just the two of us. And so we really weren't sure what was going to happen. But literally overnight, we grew to thousands of customers, over 3K customers from that, just within that 1 hour of the show. And then we had over 5,000 emails to our support at surpriseride.com. And I was, we were both managing the company and then replying to customer service emails. And we had people writing in telling us they wanted to give us their life savings so they could invest in us. This grandma told us, she wants to invest in us. It was so sweet. We had a New York police officer telling us that he does these things with his kid and he would like to work for us. I mean, just the most, we would cry. I mean, there were so many times we would just read emails and we would just start crying because it was such a beautiful thing that happened. So beyond just customers, we had emails, outreach. I mean, it was crazy. It was truly nuts. We didn't sleep for weeks after that.
That is awesome. That is so cool. Congratulations on that. That's so,
Thank you.
it really just tells you, it confirms the work, all the hard work that you put in and the effort that you put in to develop a great product. And that's cool. That's really cool. Tell us what's going on with Surprise Ride today.
Oh my God, amazing. So Surprise Ride got sold to Fat Brain Toys a little over a year ago. Fat Brain Toys is an awesome company. They're family owned. They're out in Omaha, Nebraska, and they are truly an amazing, amazing place. We're so happy that we were able to give Surprise Ride such a wonderful home. So it continues, the legacy continues. They've done really well with incorporating all of our products into their product line. They have a bunch of awesome products. It's a husband and wife who run the company. Their son even works there. I mean, we couldn't ask for a better place. So it's thriving. And obviously during these times that we're in right now, it's doing really well because kids are at home and they need something to occupy them that is not just occupying their time, but really giving them something to do that is educational. So it's a wonderful connection.
So is there any kind of, I don't know, what's the feeling that happens when you give your baby away? I mean, I don't mean baby, folks. Please don't write me. But you know what I mean? I mean, it's your business. You built this thing, your sister and you guys have just, and now, even though it's, I'm sure you do like a vetting process with the new company, right? You want to make sure you're handing it over to someone that you're going to give your baby to, right? And tell us about that a little bit. Is it difficult to have that separation?
Absolutely. So it's such an interesting thing. Ultimately, we decided this was the best for Surprise Ride. There were so many times when we would be having conversations about the future of the company, and it was always about me and Donna. And so one day we had this epiphany that us and the company are two different things. And Surprise Ride is its own entity that has its own goals and its own mission, its own customers. And me and Donna are just kind of the puppeteers that are controlling what happens to it. So that was really important and eye-opening because we realized that what was best for Surprise Ride was for it to be able to continue to grow under a new umbrella with a company like Fat Brain Toys, who has huge operations and who has all the capabilities for it to thrive more than me and Donna could ever have, right? So yeah, I think as long as it's going to a good place, as long as you feel good about the outcome, it's easier to let go. And I get so much joy when I go on their website, Fat Brain Toys, and I see Surprise Ride and it has its own page and its videos and content and it's just looking so good. It makes me so happy.
Was there counsel from Mr. O'Leary during this time at all?
Absolutely. Yeah. Kevin was very crucial throughout that process. He was crucial throughout so many things that we did. One that comes to mind also is when we were launching in retail stores. We launched in Michael's and he told us, when you're going into retail, I know you want to go big or go home, but it's always good to do a few stores to test in the beginning and then launch to the nation. And we took his advice and we were very surprised he said that because we thought he would tell us that we should just launch in the whole United States and the entire world and But it was interesting. It was very thoughtful. So yeah, we have his number. We text him. We did a podcast with him. He has his own podcast. We were on that. We were on The View with him. I mean, yeah, such a great guy.
Tell us what's going on with you today. Where's that entrepreneurial spirit focused on today?
Yeah, so Donna and I launched something new called Launch Sister Ventures. And essentially what it is it's us helping entrepreneurs, consumer-based entrepreneurs, early stage entrepreneurs, all the way seed, all the way up to venture-backed, and helping them grow their business, creating new initiatives with them, helping them with new projects, more so in an advisor role. And that's been really interesting because we've been able to dabble in a bunch of things at once and kind of see if we are going to start another consumer-based company, what would it be and what would it look like? But this has given us an opportunity to sort of help a bunch of different entrepreneurs at once. So it's been really, really nice.
Do you attract potential Shark Tank candidate? I mean, that seems like a natural progression, right? If I'm heading that way, I want to check in with Launch Sisters Ventures because you've been there,
Yeah.
been down that road, right?
Yeah, so we've advised some companies that have not gone yet on Shark Tank, and they want to. They're in the middle of that process, or they haven't even started that process yet. That's, I think, such good value that we can add there. And then, yeah, entrepreneurs who have been in the tank and now they're kind of like, what do I do with all this PR that I've got, right? I was in front of 8 million people. Now what? What story am I sharing? How am I continuing to grow from that point? Because you don't want to reach a plateau. You want to kind of keep the trajectory going higher and higher. So that's something we've had to really learn and can share with other entrepreneurs for sure.
Where does our viewers and listeners go to find out more about Launch Sisters Venture?
So Launch Sister Ventures is launching soon. Our website is launching soon. We've been doing things through LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can connect with me and message me there. You can learn a little bit more about it. And then our official website, which is going to be fabulous, is launching in the next few weeks.
Awesome. Rosy, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And I know our viewers did and listeners, we put out you guys are going to be on the show and we had tons of questions and I think you answered all of them actually. So thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks so much for having me, Nick.